Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, Tania and Syngin. Let's watch.
It's off. I just kind of hope that you will start to trust me more in these next couple of days or months coming, you know?
Show me that you care more when you do work. Show me that you'll take your time and you'll care more about hurting yourself or putting a hole in the wall by accident, or, you know what I mean?
Okay, so I've talked about this before, this mother-son dynamic that is seemingly developing. It seems to be mainly perpetrated by her. He seems to be resisting, actually, that pigeonholing of him being an incompetent child that needs to be micromanaged by mommy wife. But they're developing that, and so this conversation is a little better than previous conversations. He's saying, look, I just want you to trust me more. I want you to believe in me. I don't want you to think that I'm going to screw everything up. And then she says, well, I need you to prove it to me. Okay, that could work if it's true that she is open to being proven that he can do things on his own. I don't know why he needs to prove himself. You know, she doesn't have to prove himself to him, but he has to prove himself to her. So we're already in a weird dynamic there. And but if she is codependent, the anxiety and the need to micromanage comes from within. It's independent of what's happening on the outside. And even if he is extremely competent, if she is codependent, she will still try to force him into underfunctioning, or she won't like him because he doesn't fit well in her model of love, which might have come from the past where she observed codependency and overfunctioning in her childhood. And she'll just be like, I don't like him. You know, I don't want to be with him because, and this often can happen when we have a deep need to recreate the past, to recreate relationships from our past. And we find a healthy person that doesn't fit into that destructive relationship in the past. Sometimes we'll interpret it as, I'm not in love with it. I'm not attracted to that person. And on the flip side, when we're attracted to people and we haven't recovered from our relational traumas in the past, our attraction to that person is actually an indication that this is going to be a recreation of the past and therefore not a good situation for either one of you. And it's a weird thing, right? To fall in love, but the reason why our hearts were open to love with that person is because subconsciously we knew that we could recreate a past relationship with that person.
Yeah, I totally understand you, and I know that in your mind there's a point for me to prove to you, but I just need a little bit of that freedom from you, you know, to...
You've had so much, and that's why now I'm asking you to show me more.
I quite don't feel that.
You hurt yourself all the time. Can you just take yourself off the bed so we can make it and go to bed?
The way she talked, let's rewind this. So he's just saying, hey, could you just trust me a little bit more? And she's like, well, you got to show me. And then he's like, well, I just don't feel like you're really being open. And then this sort of motherly tone. Take note of this, because if you want to learn about the mother-son dynamic, the overfunctioner, underfunctioner dynamic, the codependent person of concern dynamic, this is what it looks like in terms of the controlling type of codependency. I can't know that that's what's happening right now because we're only seeing these little snippets on a reality TV show, and we can't even really know if they're performing for the camera. It's just hard to say. But if I was teaching a class on codependency, I would show this whole scene in this cabin.
Yeah, I totally understand you, and I know that in your mind there's a point for me to prove to you, but I just need a little bit of that freedom from you, you know, to...
You've had so much, and that's why now I'm asking you to show me more.
I quite don't feel that.
You hurt yourself all the time. Can you just take yourself off the bed so we can make it and go to bed?
He's asking for freedom, and she's like, I've already given you a lot of freedom. You've had so much. It's like he's asking for ice cream, and she's like saying, you've already had ice cream. It's time to go to bed. It's just listen to that tone. I mean, it is unpleasant to my ears. I'll tell you.
I love you. I do, but can we go to bed?
Okay. But really, it's something that we need to work on these next 90 days. Like, you know, I think it's something we need to talk about a nail on the head before.
Yeah, so I don't know what's happening for her, but for him, he's, I think, saying, I'm not really hearing what I was hoping I would hear. I'm not hearing any kind of kindness from you, or I don't really feel like you're listening to me. So unless this changes, I don't think this is going to work. I think that's what he's saying. Now, she, before, when they were at dinner, did exhibit some ability to slow down and to, okay, take a deep breath, relax. So maybe she'll achieve that. And, moving is very stressful. It is extremely distressful to move, and you're sweaty, you depend on someone else to do things, and so maybe that's a factor, and maybe they'll pull out of the nosedive later.
If this really continues.
We have plenty of projects where you can show me your patience.
Okay. I myself have great leader potential for me, and
you do.
But you try and dampen it almost for me. You kind of like, if I'm doing something, you're over my shoulder because you think that I'm not doing it right, and then you think that, well, I know how to do this better, so.
Yeah, he's describing it perfectly. And I think his approach, he could be better in terms of his approach to trying to convince her to not be this way. But let's see what I'd hope she would say in this one would be like, oh, yeah, sorry, I can be a little anxious sometimes, which leads to me micromanaging. That's probably not fair. That's on me. That's my anxiety. Let's see what she says.
Why don't you take my advice and do it my way?
Well,
that's kind of how I get the vibe I get from your ways.
Well, we have 90 days for you to show me that you can be more cautious. It's literally taking a little bit more thought and a little bit more care to things.
Okay, we'll see.
Okay, so the way she worded it isn't pathological. There's nothing wrong with saying like, if I were there, I'd help her to potentially get to a place. I don't know if this is true for her, but I think the foundation of what she just said was, look, I really love you, but you're a very impulsive person, and that's okay. You can be that way, but I'm scared that we're not going to fit well together because of your way. And so I'm trying to, adjust your personality a little bit, or I'm trying to see if there's some flexibility there, because for me, I kind of need you to be a little bit left of where you're at right now, which is a little bit slower, a little bit more careful, a little bit more cautious, a little bit more, planning for the future. You don't have to change if you don't want to, but that is what for my sake, I'm hoping you get there, because at this point, the way that you're kind of this whirlwind of spontaneity. I don't think that's going to bode well for parenting and for building a family together. I'm guessing that's where she's coming from, but instead of saying that, she's like, there's something wrong with you. You're impatient, you're impulsive, and you need to prove to me. You need to prove to me. It's a very motherly way of talking to someone instead of asking a partner. And I work with codependent people, overfunctioners a lot, and I'll sit in my office, and I'll say to the codependent person, ask your partner for help. You want something from them. Word it in a way that is peer to peer. Husband to wife, or wife to wife, husband. Someone your age. Word it that way. Do not word it top down. And they might be able to kind of do it, but they always will orient themselves in a talking down to tone, because it just does not compute in their head. It is such a pattern. It's such a habit of theirs to talk down to people and to talk to people like they're children, especially when they're spouses.
You can go turn the light off.
Yeah, but like maybe when the lights are off, we can get a little frisky.
I'm going to bed.
Okay,
so he said, hey, let's have sex. And I think that might have helped if she were up for it. Of course, if she's not up for it, it's fine. But that might have, because one of the things about couples that we found through research is that if couples have a lot of good moments together, whether it's sex or date night or making jokes together or having fun, if they can have enough of the positive moments, it will counteract the negative moments. So it's not a matter of never having negative moments. It's a matter of having a lot of positive moments to counteract that. In fact, we found, not we, but John Gottman and colleagues here in Seattle found that the ratio tends to be about 5-to-1, meaning you need about 5 positive moments for every negative moment. And when we learn this, we try to work with couples to pay attention to that in terms of it's okay to have some negative moments, but what you need to, the work that a lot of long-term relationships have to put in is creating, intentionally creating positive moments by reaching out to them, when if just take inventory for yourself. And I know some of you are couples, take inventory, and they can be little positive things as well, like just a kiss goodbye on the way to work, or sharing a funny thing that you're reading on the internet. Those are, it doesn't have to be a sexual encounter for it to be a positive thing, or a massively obviously positive thing. There's just little connection bits. Think about right now, take inventory, take positive if you need to, all the interactions that you've had, positive, neutral, and negative. And it's possible a lot of the neutral ones are actually kind of positive because it's a little bit of like, hey, we're in a relationship, we're together. And, make note of it. Are there a lot of positive things, and are there, or are there a lot of negative things, and what's the ratio there? The reason why you want to do this is you want to make habits in long-term relationships where you are putting the effort into, when you wake up in the morning, instead of just saying, hey, like go to the person, hug them, kiss them, have a moment together. If you don't do that, then, the negative moments will come into a ratio to the positive moments that leads to things that are defensiveness and criticism and contempt. So he was just, I think, attempting to do that, or he just, wanted to. And she put the kibosh on it, which is fine. But hopefully she recognized that, okay, well, I don't want to have sex, but we can hug, or, we could kiss goodnight, or we could just joke around or something. Hopefully they had some positive moments there.
Between whites and blacks, which only ended in 1994.
Wow. We would have been illegal. Like when we were born,
yeah,
we were illegal at the time. Like we couldn't have been boyfriend and girlfriend.
Yeah. A lot of things, I still have a little bit of psychological things that I'm working on to try and release that kind of toxicity from my mind.
All right, so good. He's recognizing that he grew up in a racist, segregated culture, and they're still emerging out of that culture. And he is individually trying to release himself, trying to get rid of that toxicity inside of him, and that's great. It takes time, and it starts with recognizing that you need to do that.
The way it all was.
I've tried to soften him up, son. Like, let him know, like, emotions are okay.
Yeah, you don't see Afrikaans people crying.
Vulnerability.
Yeah,
There's
and
no
so he
crying.
cries. He cries with me.
Yeah.
All right, great. Actually, we're hearing behind the scenes that she has helped him with shedding toxic masculinity and adopting positive and helpful masculinity. It is absolutely masculine, if you decide it to be, to have the courage to cry. It's human to cry, and men are humans, and masculinity is a thing of humans, and therefore masculinity should involve crying in the same way that masculinity should involve going to the bathroom. Anyway, so he is attesting to she has helped him, and he also is trying to become more human, more of a human than a toxic man based out of his culture. And he has cried, and he's cried in front of her. That's fantastic. Maybe we'll hear more about that. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.